to another video. My name is Alyssa and this is Dreaming of the Farm. In today's video, I'm sharing the birth story of my second VBAC to my third baby girl, Evelyn Rose, born on New Year's Eve. Pretty cool. If you're new completely, I started a YouTube channel to share the story of my first VBAC. I had a VBAC in February of 2020, 17 months after a C-section, and I talk a lot about how I prepared for that in another video, so if you're interested in those things, I'll link them down below. So I am happy to share that my second VBAC was a much easier birth than my first VBAC. Even though it was my third baby, it was kind of like my second vaginal delivery, and sometimes they say the second ones go faster, and I am so relieved to say it did. I'll get into how I was feeling before all that. My due date was December 26th and day after Christmas, so it was a good distraction. If you're somebody that goes past your due date, you know, it gets a little blah at the end there, a little sick of waiting, but we kind of anticipated I would go past my due date as I've done before, and it was really beautiful to be able to have Christmas at home with my family and my children, and just be able to enjoy the season. So on the day I was due, I had a massage scheduled. I got a prenatal massage, very relaxing. She put some clary sage on my feet to see if that would help induce anything. And after that, we just went on a walk at the Jersey Shore because it was really warm in New Jersey, and that's what we did on my due date, just kind of laid low post-Christmas stuff. Day after my due date was a Monday, so woke up with that like Monday mentality, like focused, ready to go, and I had an appointment early, and I went into that appointment, and it wasn't like the best appointment. It wasn't the worst appointment, but it wasn't great because I had found out that the midwife that I adore was no longer there, and she had no longer been there for many, many months. But in the rush of working full-time and taking care of two daughters, I completely had no idea. So I was a little dumbfounded and met this new midwife who was lovely but knew nothing of my history, and she just didn't have a lot of advice for somebody who goes so late, what to do. I was checked at that appointment, which I had denied or declined any cervical checks previously just because I know I go late and I have found them discouraging. So at this appointment, she checked me and I was 1 centimeter dilated. I was 80% effaced and the baby was in mid position. For me, that was good. That was a good thing. That was further along than I've ever been before. But she did not recommend me having a sweep. And having a sweep done was something that we wanted to do at that appointment, but she didn't recommend it. And then she also was like, okay, so, you know, that's it. And there was no like, oh, come back in a few days or schedule a C-section just in case. Like, she had really nothing to offer me. And it just kind of was like, we'll see you later. So I had to remind her that no, like once you go past your due date, you know, as you get closer to the 41 weeks, like you do want to have ultrasounds to check the fluids, and you want to have non-stress tests to check out contractions to make sure the heart rate's good. So I kind of had to advocate for myself in that way, and they had to call other doctors, but you know, always advocate for yourself, and every practice is different. Maybe, you know, they would have waited, but it was the holidays and I just wanted to make sure I had something on the books because COVID was high and I didn't want to be like stuck and alone by myself. After we got done with that, I felt a little like meh, like just meh. And the next day, 2 days after my due date, I decided I was going to walk. My husband got a haircut, so I was like, I'm going to just take both girls out by myself, very pregnant, and walk with them. So we went for a walk, a cold, damp walk, and it was good because I got to work out a bit. And then after that, I had an appointment with my pelvic therapist. She was really gentle. She did some sacrum releases and she gave me a few stretches to do at home, but I just had a pelvic appointment, and the pelvic therapist, although it's not her area, kind of thought the baby looked higher. And I know, you know, people say things to you, but it did get to me. So I got in the car and I was like, I should call up my midwife and talk to her. So I finally, after crying and getting lost on the way home, I got the nurse to get me someone I knew at my office who would talk to me, and she called me and she kind of calmed me down and said, why are you so stressed? Like, what's wrong? I'm like, I'm not happy that this midwife I saw yesterday, this late in pregnancy, knew nothing of my history. And she's like, okay, well, we know that you go late. We're not worried. You are a VBAC. We're not concerned about scheduling a C-section, but if you want to get one on the books, you can. Let's see you this Thursday. Let's see you in 2 days, and we'll discuss everything then. So that was the peace of mind I needed. 3 days after my due date, we had a family day. We went shopping, did, again, like nothing special, just kind of checking things off the to-do list, and then I kind of rested peacefully because I knew that the following day I had an appointment coming up with a midwife who was going to, just make me feel ready to deliver and make me feel motivated and make me feel reassured and confident that everything was going as it should be and that we were making all the right decisions. So before this appointment, my husband and I kind of really discussed what we wanted, our honest feelings, and given we had been through 2 very long birth experiences, 2 to 3 days for both of my daughters, we just didn't want to go through that again. It's exhausting, it's draining, and it has really, for me, provided not the best postpartum. So we kind of discussed maybe a C-section would be easier, maybe just having something scheduled so we're not tired if it's not going to be a quick vaginal delivery. So we were honest with the midwife about that, and she said, well, just know that, this vaginal delivery will be your easiest recovery and your second C-section will be a harder recovery. So she wasn't discouraging of me scheduling it, but she was very forthcoming with the info. And so we discussed that first, and then she said, let's think about it. Let's do an ultrasound. Let's check your fluids to make you feel better, that everything's going on okay in there. And she also did the non-stress test for about 20 minutes and to make sure the baby's heart was good, and everything was looking great. So there was no reason for me to be like, oh, we should get things moving. Everything was looking healthy, and that's something you always want to hear at the end. Just making sure that baby's okay is what's most important. So she checked me again, and she said it was a 2, and she was able to stretch me to a 3, so she was able to do a membrane sweep for me, which I've never had done before. So I felt very awesome about that. I felt very proud of myself, as silly as that sounds, to be able to have those, because it was uncomfortable but not as painful as I thought it would be. I've heard a lot of different things, so having it done, it wasn't that bad. We scheduled a C-section for that day. We left with one scheduled for January 6th, which was later than I wanted, but they had nothing available, and it was pretty frustrating trying to schedule just that one because of COVID and because of New Year's. A lot of people not around, but we did get one on the calendar, which made me feel good. So after that, my husband and I went on a date. We went out to lunch. We had a full course meal and really relaxed and enjoyed ourselves. And on the way back from there, after lunch in the car, I started to have contractions, and I got really excited. And I was in communication with my doula, who said that I shouldn't be getting excited because contractions are very normal after a sweep. And she said you might even have some bloody show. So I did. I had some bloody show as soon as I got home. I even had some in the restaurant now that I'm thinking about it. So even though she told me not to get excited, I thought I should rest. I thought I should lay down. And I laid down, and the contractions continued after the sweep. They were intensifying at times, like I would lay on one side. So I was feeling excited that this could possibly be it. So I told my husband when my daughter Emmeline was taking a nap, let's take Ellery for a walk and let's see if this is gonna happen. So we went for a walk, and whomp, the contractions completely died down on that walk. I was like, okay, but that still was exciting. So I reached out to her and I said, what can I do to maybe help move things along that's not going to really exhaust me? Because my first VBAC, I did a lot of curb walking. Okay. The cutest little sounds. Little hair. Okay, so we went to Target, we got some evening primrose oil, and we inserted 1 capsule that night, 1,000 milligrams, and my doula thought that might help things progress without progressing exhaustion and doing things like curb walking or mile circuit, just because I did want to save my energy in the event I had a really long labor like the last time. So I was able to fall asleep really easily, which isn't always the case in late pregnancy. It's so cute. A little squishy. It's little Evelyn Rose. Love her so much. Oh, she's such a good baby. So sleep came easily that night, the night before I went into labor, almost exactly 24 hours before she was born. And, you know, that was cool because sleep doesn't always come easy that late in pregnancy. So it came easy, but it didn't last long. I woke up around 12:45, and after like an hour or two of tossing and turning, I just decided to get up because I was pretty awake. And I did laundry, I unloaded the dishwasher. 2 o'clock in the morning, everybody else is sleeping, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, I made myself breakfast. I was like, I'm hungry, and I like really had breakfast, not like a snack, like breakfast. And I started watching the birth videos of my first 2 daughters, and that just made me so happy. It just made me so excited to relive it all, and it just got me in like that really good emotional mindset. I was like looking at all the pictures on Instagram, and I just was like really envisioning it happen. So at 4, I was like, I should probably lay down, and I got myself back in bed. And as I was drifting off to sleep, I started feeling contractions again, really random, like every 20 to 30 minutes contractions. And as I was contracting in my head, I started envisioning pushing the baby down, trying to feel that, like manifesting that, and just being really present with the contraction, and doing some things that my pelvic, bless you, doing things that my pelvic therapist had taught me to do. And I fell asleep at some point after 4, and I woke up around 8. Robert got everybody up, and so I got to sleep in. 8 o'clock is sleeping in around here. And we got up, and we didn't think it was going to be that day. We kind of thought it'll be the weekend, like we felt like it's going to be soon, but we definitely didn't think it was going to be that day. I was going to have breakfast, have a good shower. I was going to go out and get a manicure and a pedicure, which I had put off because I had a feeling it was going to be late, and that was the plan. So I was having contractions. I did let my doula know what was happening around 8:30, and I said, hey, I'm still having contractions, but like nothing to write home about. And I would say, like, during breakfast, there were moments where like I had to like stop, and like I kind of gave Robert a look like but not wanting to get him too excited. But like I definitely was feeling like different. So I took a long, good shower. And a couple times in the shower, I was like, you know, oh, like this is feeling like kind of like something, but still nothing is what I was thinking. And I was blow drying my hair. It took me probably like 2 hours to shower and blow dry my hair, which like now that I'm saying it out loud, like it probably should have been like, oh, duh, like labor's coming, labor's happening. And I was just separating myself from the chores and my kids to kind of really be present with what was happening. And I went downstairs to get water. You know, I was avoiding all distractions, and I come down to get water at the exact time my husband received a text message that, oh, I should back up. So just one important thing. When I was getting ready, my husband came upstairs and said, I'm going to take the Christmas tree down, which should have just been done deal. I'm in labor, because historically, Robert always starts a big house project the day we have a baby. Like, it's always something huge, like not a little project, a big project. And taking down our Christmas tree is a event. So I was like, okay, take it down. I didn't want him to take it down, but I was having serious anxiety about the tree catching on fire. We're real tree people. So I was like, you know, I think I'll rest better if the tree is down. So backing up, so I was coming downstairs. He was in the middle of taking down the tree, and he got a text message that we had a COVID exposure, or he had a COVID exposure. And whatever type of fear arose in me from us potentially being exposed from COVID that close to having a newborn, like triggered labor, game over, deal breaker, game changer. That's what I wanted to say. I was like in labor. It was crazy that the contractions like really picked up. So I went upstairs. A friend had called me to talk about the COVID exposure, and like I didn't even say a word to her. And she's like, yeah, I thought you were in labor, because you didn't even say a word. I called my doula. I called my parents. It was like, okay, this is happening. I felt like I wasn't even a human. I felt like something from Lord of the Rings. Like, it just the switch was that fast, and I think it definitely came from some type of hormone release that I guess came from me being nervous and scared and worried about the COVID exposure, but it really went from being manageable to being unmanageable. The text message he received was at 12:34, and we were in the car at 2 o'clock. So it took us like an hour and a half to kind of get the kids situated and get my husband situated. And I remember saying to him at one point, like, you better get that tree done, but there's no way you're taking a shower before we go to the hospital. We drove to the hospital, and I was having really intense contractions, and I know from my previous pregnancy and from the contractions I was having the day before after the membrane sweep that sitting is so uncomfortable for me. So I got into the back of our car, the back of our truck, and I was in all fours, like just in tabletop position all the way to the hospital. And we're about 30 minutes from the hospital, moving on highways. So yeah, so that was definitely an adrenaline rush. And I was very in my own mental state there. Robert had to do all the communicating. He had to call the hospital to let them know we were coming. We actually didn't even know we had to call them and tell them we were coming. And then he had to call my doula. My doula met us there. It was about like 2:50, 2:45. She had a wheelchair for me. She slowly got me out of the car. It was really hard to get out of the car having those contractions. So once I was out of the car and in the wheelchair, which even getting into the wheelchair took some time because sitting is so uncomfortable for me once I have started having contractions like that. I got wheeled in, and they asked for zero identification, which I thought was strange, but they did tell me to put a mask on. And I do remember the security guard being really adamant about me having a mask on as I was like in the middle of a really intense contraction. So they wheeled me up. Robert came in soon after us with all of our things. And when we got there, they said, we don't have a room for her. Like, we just had an onslaught of women come in all of a sudden, so we don't have a room. And my doula, I was leaning against the wall on this metal handicap bar, and my doula like tried to assist the contraction by pushing on my hips, which we loved first VBAC, and I like screamed bloody murder. I was like, don't touch me, and there were some foul words in there. And with me doing that, the nurse said, oh, we need to get her a room really quickly. So they got me a room very quickly. 8 minutes, we went in there, the floors were still wet, nice and clean. And the first thing my doula said was, oh, do you want to try and use the ladies' room? So I sat down on the toilet. The toilet was a little bit higher than your usual toilet, and it was so painful. And I said to her, I'm going to have the baby on this toilet. So they quickly got me off. I couldn't empty my bladder. And they got me in, and I started to really aggressively ask for an epidural. I was really nervous that the baby was going to come so quickly that I would have to have an unmedicated birth. That's not something I want. I don't want to know or feel any of that. I just want to be medicated when delivering a child. And they were telling me I needed to be checked. They were telling me that I needed to get on penicillin because I'm strep B positive, and that I just needed to have, you know, all my information. So it was, they told me it would be like a half hour before, so that felt like an eternity. And they checked me, and I was at a 5. It was actually another new midwife, but not the midwife I had seen earlier. So somebody I felt a little bit better with, and she was good. And when she told me I was a 5, I was curious if they were going to be sending me home, because as a VBAC in my hospital, you can't have any type of induction drugs, no Pitocin allowed, and they really encourage you to be 6 centimeters. But they said with the 5 and my contractions being the way they were, apparently my contractions were beautiful, and that I was good to stay. So they got me on an IV, they got my antibiotics in, and the most wonderful, kind man came in and gave me my epidural as quickly as possible. And the epidural was in at 4:15. I just want to check my notes really quickly on that. Okay, so the midwife checked me at 3 o'clock, that's when it was 5 centimeters. 3:30, I got the antibiotic, and I had the epidural, and then they checked me again at 4:15, and from 3:30 to 4:15, I had gone from a 5 to an 8. So I was on cloud 9, so happy about that, and I was -1 gestation. Very different experience from my first VBAC. So After I had the epidural, just kind of came rest. It got really mellow, got really relaxing, got really exciting. It was really fun to be pregnant on, or in labor, I would say, on New Year's Eve. Everybody was in good spirits at the end of the year, lots of like party vibes, and it just kind of became like a moment for my husband and I to have real quiet to discuss baby names, because we hadn't had a name yet. We didn't even know the gender, and we were discussing baby girl names, like what would the baby girl name be, because we knew what the boy name would be if it was a boy, but we did not know what the girl name would be. So we really discussed that, and it just got real exciting. And around 5 o'clock, I was checked again, and I was 9 centimeters. And right after she checked me and I was at the 9, my water had broke. It broke in 2 gushes, like an initial gush. The first gush, I was like, oh wow, like I never had my waters break like that before, and I thought that that was like a big gush. But then I had a second gush, and that gush was like way bigger than the first one. So very fun, very cool. And with the water breaking, the contractions got a bit stronger. I was feeling pressure again and feeling pain again. So we did crank up the epidural. So I did have to lay, once I got the epidural, on my right side exclusively. Anytime I would change position, the baby's heart would decel. And after about 3 times of that happening, they give me some oxygen to help. But it seemed the baby was only happy with me laying on my right with a peanut ball. And baby was progressing, contractions were still staying really good. But if I had changed anything, the heart would decelerate. So that was just something that was concerning, because we knew from the first pregnancy that I needed to move around a lot to keep the baby going down. So I was getting a little bit worried that I was going to like stall having to stay in the one position, but it wasn't a problem. It didn't present any issues. So once I was at that 9 and the heart rate was good, we kind of started checking back in with the world, and we were letting everybody know that the baby was coming. We were watching the things on New Year's Eve. My husband was ordering food for us, because everybody knew the baby was going to be there definitely before midnight, before the ball dropped. So that was really fun. Around 6:55 p.m., the pressure got pretty intense, where it would be present not only when I was contracting, so we knew I would be pushing soon. And I was checked again, and I was a 10 centimeters right at 7 o'clock, and I had just the littlest lip, an anterior lip, I believe. We were just really waiting for me to feel that urge even more in between the contractions to have me push. Something amazing about my providers is that they don't have premature pushing. They really make sure that the mother is ready to push before they start the pushing, because they don't want the mother to be exhausting pushing forever. And both my VBACs, I didn't push for very long. Evelyn Rose was born at 7:33 p.m. after 2 contractions and 5 pushes. I had a 1st-degree tear with her, and we didn't know the gender. So the way they did it for us was my husband and I were next to each other face to face, and they didn't say what it was. They just showed us her area, and it was really cool. It was very fun to be surprised. That was a new experience for us. And she came into the world very quickly, and my husband cut the umbilical cord. I was stitched up. I got stitched up. I got my placenta removed. My placenta birthed out my placenta, and we went right to nursing, and she was a little champ with that. And it was a very beautiful birth. It was very quick. I can't believe that I was able to have a baby in less than 24 hours. I can't believe that I was able to have a baby in less than 12 hours from when labor really started to when baby girl arrived. And yeah, we've been just loving being home, being a family of 5, having 3 girls. It's pretty magical. I feel like a very lucky mama to have 3 little besties, 3 little friends. So that's my 2 VBAC birth story. Hopefully I don't have to film this again, because there were a lot of interruptions. But if it all makes sense, I'm going to put it out there. Feel free to leave me any questions. I will link my other VBAC birth videos. But I hope this was enjoyable to you. So I'm going to film right now, actually, names that I liked that we didn't use. So if you are having a baby girl and you're looking for some name inspo, make sure you check out that video too. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again, and please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel at Dreaming of the Farm. Bye guys.